Welcome everyone, this is Mindy, and in today's video I'm going to introduce to you the January 2021 My Monthly Hero Kit. I'm giving you an overall view of what's included in the kit this month, and then in just a moment we'll take a closer look at the products. So here we have a large 6x8 clear stamp. There are coordinating frame cuts, a honeycomb window die. You'll also be receiving a honey lacquer pen, and then you're getting 6 sheets of paper that are 5.5 by 8.5, and you're going to get 2 of the pale yellow glitter, 2 black glitter cardstocks, and then 2 gold brilliance cardstock. Some of the sentiments on this stamp set are "You're beautiful," "Sweet as honey," "I've pollen head over heels for you," "Sweet as can be," and "We belong together." And there's a few other ones that you can mix and match to create your own sentiment. This kit values at $70. The kit cost is $34.99. Now you can purchase this kit separately if you'd like, but when you become a subscriber to the monthly kits, you are guaranteed a kit. So that way, if it sells out, if you're a subscriber, you don't have to worry about missing out on these amazing products. Now we'll take a closer look at the stamp set. So like I said, this is a large 6x8 stamp set. You can see mine is well loved. There's this gorgeous large floral image, 2 smaller flowers, and then those adorable chubby bees. Just love them. Now this is the coordinating die set, so you have them for the bees, the 2 flower images, and the large floral arrangement. And then we also have that honeycomb window die, which is a lot of fun. Here's a look at the cardstock. This is the black glitter cardstock. This is a look at the pale yellow, and you'll be getting 2 of each of these sheets of cardstock in your kit. And this is the gold brilliance. So this one is a little bit thinner than the gold cardstock, but still die cuts beautifully. Now I'm going to walk you through creating 2 very clean and simple cards. One of the images on the stamp set is this little honeycomb piece, and this is really great to create backgrounds, which is what I'm going to be doing today. This is a piece of dove white cardstock that I have cut to 4.25 by 5.5. I lined up the honeycomb towards the center of my cardstock, and I'm stamping that in the Hero Arts Intens-ified black ink. Now this is really fun because it kind of fits like a puzzle, so you can really position this any way you want on your card. I decided to go in just a diagonal direction, and you can use just an acrylic block if you prefer to stamp that way. Once I have that honeycomb down, you're going to have these 3 little filler pieces, and these are going to go in that honeycomb. So I'm just randomly placing those down onto my outline honeycomb, and I am going to stamp this in Dandelion ink. Now I didn't actually line mine up real perfect, but I really love the offset look that this has. I think that gave it more of a realistic look to it. So I decided to just do some random areas. I went in kind of that diagonal format again. So I just stamped 4 sections of these trio honeycombs using that dandelion ink. Then I did color a bee off screen, and I just brought that in as a guide so I knew about where I would want it and where I want to do this sentiment. This is the Sweet as Can Be sentiment that I'm placing down in the corner and stamping with the Intens-ified black ink. I trimmed the panel down to 3.75 by 5 inches, and I'm just adding that to a piece of mustard cardstock measuring 4.25 by 5.5. Then I can bring in my cute little chubby bee that I have lined with foam squares, and I'm just adding that to the front of my card for a little dimension. So that is our first really quick and simple card created with the kit. Next, I'm going to use some of this beautiful glitter cardstock that came in the kit along with a piece of dove white cardstock. I always start with a 4.25 by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock, and that will actually be my card front. So I'm starting with this honeycomb window die, and I am going to line it up about where I want it, making sure that I'm even on both sides of that honeycomb. And then I'm going to hold it in place with some low tack tape just so it doesn't move around when I die cut it. Then I'm taking a craft pick and I'm just punching out any of those areas that didn't come out right away. And I'll repeat that with the black glitter cardstock and the pale yellow glitter cardstock. Now the white ones I didn't save, but I am saving those pieces from the two glitter cardstocks. I'm going to do a die cut inlay technique. Now you can also save these pieces that you're die cutting from and create more cards with those card fronts. So save these pieces, you can use them again. Now that all of my windows are cut out, I'm going to start assembling my card. Now this could easily be turned into a shaker card, but I'm just going to take a tape runner and just run that across the entire back, including those little lines of the honeycomb, and I'm going to add that straight to a piece of Dove White cardstock. So we're still measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then I'll take the Hero Arts liquid glue and I'm going to add little dots of glue into those open areas. I'm only doing a few at a time, and I'm using a jewel picker to pick up those pieces and add them into the little areas. Now, normally I like to use an embellishment wand. I feel that's a little stickier, and that's the one that has a black tip to it. But this time I'm using a jewel picker, and the reason for that is I found that the black tip of my embellishment wand was leaving little black marks on my yellow glitter cardstock. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that and be careful of how you're layering that. I'm going to continue going around the entire frame of this using the pale yellow and the black glitter cardstock, and I did kind of go in a pattern. So I normally did about 3 yellow around 1 black. Once that's done, I'm going to load my panel back into my Misty tool, and I'm going to put a sentiment in here. This is off of the kit stamp set that says "We Belong Together." Pick that up with the door of the Misty and stamped that in the black Intens-ified ink. Then once again, I have some bees that I had colored and die cut off screen. So I'm taking one of them. I'm going to adhere it using some foam squares just in the bottom corner. And this bee is my absolute favorite. And that's a look at 2 really quick and simple cards you can create with the kit. Now I'm going to show you how I did some coloring for my flowers and bees. So starting with the bees, because I did create quite a few of them, I'm using Y38, Y15, and Y04 of my Copic markers. These images are all stamped on Hero Arts Dove White cardstock and stamped in their intensified black ink. So I'm just using those 3 colors to create a highlight area, the midtone, and then the shaded area. Now that middle bee, I did the dark colors on the outside, and notice that bottom bee, I had the dark color on the bottom of the belly. Then for the wings, I did BG11 with just some light flicks going out to the ends of the wings and finished it off with BG10. I didn't color in the entire wing. I left a lot of white space for it. Then I'm going to move on to coloring my large floral image. Now I did color this 2 different ways. So this is the first one, and this is dot coloring. This is a technique that I had seen Jennifer McGuire do, and I have been dying to try this, and I thought this was the perfect floral image to try it. So I have my colors listed at the top of the screen, starting with my darkest color, V09. And I am adding that color just in little dots. I'm holding my marker straight up and down to get the very tip of the marker. And that is where my shadow area would normally be, is right close to the center of the flower. That's how I choose to color it. Then I'm coming in with a V17, adding some more dots a little bit into that dark color and then coming out towards the end of the petals. Then I have V15, once again kind of going into that previous color and coming out, and then finishing with the V12. So my lightest color is going to be on the very edges. And I colored all of the flowers that way throughout this image. I did add a little bit of Y38 to the center. And for the leaves, I'm coloring them the exact same way, but I'm using YG67, YG17, and YG13. Once again, adding that darkest color closest to the flower because I feel the flower would be casting a shadow over the leaves. And then for the branch, I'm just going to straight blend. I'm not going to do any dot coloring on that one. And I'm using E37, E35, and E33. So after I have that branch colored, I'm going to move on to the second way that I color this floral image. And I am using RV29, RV14, RV13, and I bring in an RV11. So all I'm doing is flicks. I'm not doing a lot of real blending. I'm starting with the darkest color towards the center of the flower, and I'm just adding light flicks going from the center towards the end of the petal. And I'm repeating that same process with all of the colors. I wanted it to be kind of more artistic and streaky looking than versus a more blended look, which is what I typically color. Now the leaves, I'm using the same colors as before, and that one does have more of a blended look. You can see the difference between the streaks and the flowers and the blend in the leaves. Then I'm taking the coordinating dies, holding them in place with some low tack tape, and I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. Now I'm going to create a background for my purple floral image that I colored. So I am taking a piece of Dove White cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I am ink blending it with Passion Fruit ink from Hero Arts. So I'm starting at one of the corners. This is actually going to be the bottom corner, but I like to flip my cardstock because it's just easier for me. It feels more natural to blend in that direction. And I want this to fade off into white. Once I'm done blending, the majority of the card is purple, but I really like how it's darker in the corner and fades off into white. Now I brought the floral image in to see where it was going to land, and I decided I wanted just a little bit more purple in there. So I brought that ink in, added a little bit more purple, and then I can add my sentiment. So this is a sentiment off of the kit, the stamp set in the kit. So I just stamped that in the Intens-ified black ink. And I went ahead and added a lot of foam squares to the back of my flower image. After I removed the backing, I'm going to place that onto my card front. Now I'm also going to take one of my bees that I also added some foam squares to, and I'm going to place that just right over by one of the flowers. Then I can just trim off any of the excess that's hanging off the edge, and that completes another card that can be created with the kit. Now I'm going to briefly show you some foiling that I did with this honeycomb die. So this is the window die from the kit. I have Dove White and black cardstock here that I'll be doing this to. I took some glimmer foil and cut it to the shape of my window die, placed that on my cardstock shiny side up, and my cutting edge is down, and then I held that in place with some low tack tape. So this is the glimmer system from Spellbinders. Once the green light is on, it's ready and warmed up. I flipped my cardstock upside down, placed my sheets or my plates on top of that, and then hit the button. And with the magic of camera, after about a minute, my green light stays on. I pull this out, and I'm going to run this through my Spellbinders die cutting machine. Now I will provide a more detailed video on foiling at a later time, but I wanted to just briefly show you the process of it. So this is the plates that I'm running through. I took all my other Spellbinder plates out. I'm just putting this platform in there, running that back and forth in the machine, and then I can carefully peel back that foil. And this just came out so perfect. I was so happy with how this looks. And it was just perfect for a honeycomb. Now I also repeated those steps on the black cardstock as well. So you'll see here I have that foil cut, shiny side up. The die on top, held that in place and ran that through. And this is really stunning on the black. So I did trim that panel down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches and added it to a white card front. And now I'm adding my other flowers on top of that, just using a tape runner. And then I have a sentiment that I stamped off screen and trimmed down into a rectangle that I'm going to add just right down in the corner. Now I'm also going to bring in another card that I had created. This one is very similar, but I left all the black cardstock. I didn't trim it down. And this time I tried a technique from Yana Smakula. So I was taking everything I've learned and I'm kind of finally applying it. When I die cut it from the white cardstock, I colored all of those open spaces and edges with a black Copic marker. And that just really makes it pop off of the black cardstock. So really fun technique to try. Now this is the background I foiled on the white cardstock. I just stamped a sentiment right in the center of the honeycomb, and I'm adding some more of these bees just around the edges. I like odd numbers, so I'm going to have 3 bees coming around my honeycomb, and I'm just adding them with some foam squares. Now I've lost count on what card number I'm at right now, but you can see I had a lot of fun with this kit, and there are so many different ideas that you can use with the kit from January. Now another background I have here, this is the abstract honeycomb background. This is an add-on item from Hero Arts, and I love the mix of hexagons with the hearts. So to stamp this red rubber stamp, I removed the foam insert in my Misty tool, placed my background in there, and now I have a piece of mustard cardstock and the Dove white cardstock. So I'm going to be stamping both of them. I'm starting with the mustard cardstock. I added a piece of tape runner to the back, placed that onto my stamp, and then I closed my Misty upside down, pushed down, and I can flip this up, and now my cardstock is stuck exactly where I want it to be. So since I'm heat embossing, I'm prepping this with an anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to stamp that in some clear embossing ink. And I like to stamp it twice in case I missed any areas because it is a really large stamp. And I'm going to sprinkle on Sparkle embossing powder from Hero Arts, which is one of my all-time favorite embossing powders from them. So I want to make sure that my heat gun is really nice and hot before I come to this, because that's just going to help minimize any warping. Now I found pumpkin pie ink is the perfect ink to use with this mustard cardstock. These are colors I would never normally have picked, but I really enjoyed playing with this kit this month. So I ink blended all around the edges, leaving the center the original color. And I also heat embossed another piece on that Dove white cardstock, but I heat embossed it in clear ink. This time I'm going to take Summer Sky, and I'm starting from the bottom, working my way towards the center, kind of having it fade off. And now I'm going to come in with Dandelion ink, which is actually really bright. And once I have blended it on, it was almost too bright for me. Now with the two colors, I made sure they did not completely meet in the center. I didn't want to make green. I just wanted it to kind of fade off into each other. Now, since that dandelion was just so bright, I brought in that pumpkin pie, and that was just a perfect match. Then I can take a cloth and wipe off any excess ink from both of the pieces of cardstock. And now for this first card, I have a sentiment that I heat embossed in white onto black cardstock, and I trimmed out with the Hexagon infinity die. And then I finish it off by just tucking in the bees with a tape runner. And now I'll be moving into my final card, which has that blue and yellow background that I had ink blended. So I'm leaving that as my background piece. I am taking the Hexagon Infinity die, which is new for January of 2021 from Hero Arts, and I have a piece of white cardstock measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I picked one of the sizes out of the hexagons. I'm lining that up on the cardstock, and I'm going to hold that in place with low tack tape and run it through my die cut machine. Now I'm going to take that same die, and I'm kind of eyeballing it. I want to make sure that my margins on the top and the bottom are the same, and then I'm bringing that in for a third time to cut that third window. Now this would be really great as a shaker card, but I'm just going to attach it right to the background with a tape runner. Then I have another sentiment that I heat embossed off screen, also from the January kit, and another one of those adorable bees. Obviously I am head over heels in love with these chubby little bees. So, woo, we made it. All of those card ideas for you. I really enjoyed playing with it. I just could not stop with the ideas with this kit. So remember, subscribe to the kit to guarantee you get a kit each month, because once these sell out, they are gone. You can try and purchase them individually, but you risk the chance of it selling out and not being able to get your hands on one of these amazing kits. I will have all of my supplies listed down below in the video description. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.